It's so wonderful to see so many people here, people that I've been communicating with via emails, people I've seen through the Yogi Club online community, and also nice to really connect with people I haven't seen for a few months at Blue Osa, like Ginger. Ginger actually did her teacher training with me and spent a month at Blue Osa back in, I think it was 2016, right, Ginger? So a lot of history right on this screen right now. And one of my dearest friends, Mark Raymond, in the house. So we're just going to get started. Again, just if you missed it, this will be an opportunity for you to hear other people's stories, ask questions, and glean insights. And I also want to end today with a practice, a little take-home practice. That's one of my favorites. The topic for today is the fast track on spiritual awakening. And, you know, when I put this webinar out there, one of the comments that came back to me that somebody had shared was, how can you really fast track your spiritual awakening? And I think it's really important just to say that right on the onset, I'm a tantric yogi. And as I often joke with my students, I'm a yogi on the go, and we're here to make things happen. One of the kind of Buddhist philosophies is that life is a very precious gift, and how can we kind of get as much as we can out of it? And I think that for me, part of being spiritually awakening is awakening to that truth that we're here for such a finite amount of time, and how do we get the most out of every single moment? And a big part of the, I guess, kind of yogic or tantric yoga tradition is this idea of ritual. And that's kind of where I'd like to kind of impress upon you that if we're going to really fast track our spirituality, it's like, what rituals do we have in place that are really helping us to connect to the source, whatever you want to call the source, whether it's God or spirit or the sacred. But what is going to continuously connect us to that source? What rituals do we have in place? And now I want to say two things about that. I've traveled so much to Southeast Asia. And one of the things that always kind of makes me chuckle from a delighted place, not from a laughing at place, but from a very tender place that my heart is like chuckling, is that when we are in the cars and I'm having my driver, we're having, you know, the taxi cabs drive us around wherever we're going. Every time they pass a sacred shrine, they always like honk their horn. And you can see that out of the corner of your eye, for a moment, there's this sense of deep reverence, this deep connection, this reconnection to God or to the source, or to the sacred, or to our purpose in life. And whatever that purpose is, to serve, to be available. One of the things about coming on a yoga immersion, which is really the central idea of pushing or creating space for this spiritual awakening, is steeping yourself in a place that is so enshrined in ritual. And at Blue Osa, we've really created in the yoga immersions that opportunity to really connect to that purpose. And one of the things that I'd like to really leave you guys with today is this ability to start creating more rituals in your life. And we hear that so often. We hear like, oh, I should do this and I should do that. And I think that sometimes when we should upon ourselves, it's like, what ceremonies, you know, should we be doing in life? And I don't like that idea of ceremony. And ceremony, it's like, you know, my teacher Panditji uses this example: when royalty comes into the room, you're supposed to bow to royalty, and there's like different things set up, that certain standards and certain things that you're supposed to do. But when we're talking about ritual, a ritual is something that we cultivate in the deepest chamber of our heart. A ritual is something that we do because it connects us to that most beloved within ourselves. And so a ritual is not something that we should do. It's something that we start to do because without it, we're not complete. We don't feel complete in our life. We feel that something is missing. And what I have observed so often when people come to Blue Osa, one of the rituals that we have at Blue Osa is the ritual of silence. And you can always see people like struggling with it as they practice morning silence until 7:30 each morning. And you can see people struggling with it and fighting with it because it goes against the grain of that habit. But usually by day 4 or day 5, sometimes day 7, they don't understand how they could ever have not had silence in their life. And so this is a ritual that sometimes we struggle with changing some of our habit patterns. But if we hold that idea at the forefront of our mind that we're doing this because we have a deep love and desire to connect with that most beloved part of ourselves and have that as our purpose, if you will, then cultivating the ritual becomes so effortless and much easier. So I would like to just start off by asking our alumni some questions and allow you the opportunity to really hear from their experience. There will be a Q&A afterwards, and so we'll open it up to everybody that's here to, if you have any questions, please write them down and then you can feel free to ask them afterwards. So we're going to start with Steve. And the question is, how do you feel yoga has helped you or helped you to get closer to achieving your life purpose? And how has the yoga immersion experience at Blue Osa accelerated you on the path to becoming more spiritually awakened? So we'll start with Steve, and then Channing, and then Cara, and then Ginger, and then Alexis.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here and to be able to speak to this. I think sometimes we have to subtract in order to add. And in the busy life that many of us either lead now or have led, it can sometimes be tough to establish new habits when there's a lot of distractions and shiny things and other environmental realities that pull you in a variety of different directions. And so what I really appreciated about the Blue Osa immersive experience is that you subtracted a lot of those things out. And so then you're only left with a few variables to really be mindful of and pay attention to, which helps you to be able to go inward, to understand and self-reflect, and then to be able to take that outward as you are connecting with other individuals that are in your class, your peers, and then to ultimately come back inward again with one's relationship with yourself and with nature. And that wouldn't be possible with the honking of the horns, the shiny stimuli. And so that's what I've appreciated about the Blue Osa experience, the ability to separate out the various ingredients and to explore from there.
Thanks, Steve. And Channing.
Hey guys, Aaron, it's great to see you again. I really appreciate you inviting me on here. I guess the biggest thing for me about being at Blue Osa and in terms of like reconnecting with my life's purpose was that Blue Osa gave me the space and the time to slow down and be with people who were after the same things that I was. And it looked different for everybody. And Blue Osa gave me the chance and retaught me the importance, especially like I went last September. So September 2021, I had just left a job that I had throughout the entire pandemic. And like a lot of people there, I was stressed out from work. And like Blue Osa reminded me that I had a body and that it was tied to the earth and that I needed to care for it. And I needed to care for everything that comes with it. And it was a really special experience. And it was definitely a reset that I really needed at a very vulnerable time.
Hey, Channing, I know that you've been on quite a journey since then. How do you feel like creating like a morning routine during that time has helped you gain clarity on what you're doing right now?
Oh, that's a good question. What Aaron's referring to is that I'm a nanny and I travel. And as soon as I was done with Blue Osa, I was in Switzerland and in France and in Italy. And now I'm in California. And like, my life is very, I don't want to say unstable, but I never have any idea what's going on. So being able to come back to my body, and it's not necessarily in the morning. Sometimes it has to happen after I put the kids to bed. But I have an opportunity to sit down and reconnect with me and through this process of reestablishing my connection to myself and reminding myself that I am here and that I have a purpose and then I'm going to keep going forward.
Thanks, Channing. And then we have Cara.
Hi. This is making me miss Blue Osa and the community. So yoga to me is always about coming back to my center. And for the years that I did yoga before going to Blue Osa, I just felt like there was something to yoga, but I don't really know what it is. There's something deep, but I can't put my finger on it. And I never learned about yoga philosophy until going to Blue Osa. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. There is this huge, giant world full of so many, it's just like answers. Like, here's what you need to do. The Yoga Sutras, like, you want enlightenment? Here's how you get here. Like, exactly written down. And we learned so many techniques that I've incorporated into my life to come to my center. It's just, I just love yoga so much. I just love it so much.
Cara, what is one ritual? We were talking about rituals and in the rituals of Blue Osa and of the yoga immersion and the importance of creating those rituals. And what was one ritual that really kind of spoke to you and you think that maybe even that you've taken away with you?
Yeah, every day I meditate and I do Nadi Shodhana and I do the Gayatri mantra and I do one-to-one breathing every day.
And what does those rituals do for you? What does it do for you in terms of your space and your being, or whatever words you want to put to it?
I know it's almost hard to explain what it does. It just clears my mind. It connects me to the source and helps me connect to my truth and know what my path is, know that I'm on the right path, feel my inner knowing, being able to listen to my inner voice. It gets rid of all the noise that's distracting me.
Thank you, Cara. And Ginger.
Yeah.
I kind of came into this a little bit through the back way. I knew nothing about yoga. I was much older. I got in a very bad bicycle accident. I was hospitalized for 3 months. When I got out, they started doing physical therapy and it was a lot of yoga. So here I was, I said, okay, let me just go be a yoga teacher. And it's just like, I had nothing. I wrote to Aaron. It was the first one that popped up when I was looking for something. I said, I'm overweight, I'm over 60. Is this a good place for me? And he said, if you think it is, it is. I went, the rest is history. And for me, one of the things that, and at that time, the reason I got in an accident was I lost my sense of identity. I had 3 jobs, I retired, I had 3 kids, they all went off to college, and I had nothing. I had a boyfriend, he left. It's just like, okay, what do I do with my life? My life is complete. Wham, bam, accident, wham, bam, yoga. And from there, I have found a purpose in my life. And one of the purposes is to help older people get out of pain. And doing a lot of what Aaron has done on his Blue Osa online is is not stretch and actually activate those muscles. And that's some of the stuff, then some of the things I'm working with the older population with. And I'm very proud, and I'm getting a little bit of a reputation around, with the older people. So I'm quite happy.
I love it, Ginger. Thank you. And then we have Alexis.
Hi, Erin. Thank you so much for inviting me onto this webinar. I'm just like, I can't wait to be back in July for the 300 hour. But the way yoga has helped facilitate and fast track me to my life's purpose, and how Blue Osa has helped contribute to that, was for the opportunity to come home to myself. And I say like my capital S self. It allowed me to really be curious about myself and things that I tried to avoid. Yoga has lovingly forced me to sit with myself. So with that curiosity, then it's, that compassion and acceptance, so that I can really come home to myself. And very similar to, I believe, was it Carrie said about the Gayatri mantra? If I'm not chanting it, I'm playing Deva Promo for 10 minutes on Spotify, listening to that every morning. Meditation, because I know we're talking about ritual as well. I can not only like physically feel, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually feel when I've gone a couple days without even a 5-minute meditation, whether I'm just sitting and maybe doing more of like a pranayama, samavriti, same inhale, hold, same exhale, hold for like a box breath. If I don't do that for a few days, like I can feel that. I feel this like disconnect, and that really has given me, like, coming to Blue Osa has really given me that opportunity to come home to me, while also feeling so at home the moment you step onto the property. It's incredible. Like the moment you step on, you're just like, I'm home. I think I've cried the 2 or 3 times that I've been there. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. So my next question, because a lot of people are tuning into this webinar because they want to find out more about teacher training. They want to find out about the yoga immersion. But I also think that a lot of people are tuning in because they feel sort of stuck. And so my question is a couple of questions, and we'll again go back to Steve. But I guess part of my question is, what initially motivated you to want to take this teacher training? Were you on the fence? And what advice would you have for somebody that's feeling stuck right now? And I don't mean like stuck about making a decision to do teacher training. I mean, just stuck in life, stuck like that they feel like they're in a groove that they just can't get out of. Maybe it's a bad relationship, maybe it's a job that they're in, maybe they're just feeling stuck in their body. Channing, you were talking earlier about how you got more into your body. And the way that I kind of perceived that is that there was a sense of being stuck, whether you knew it or not, and you got unstuck. So I hope that was a clear question. Steve, why don't you start here?
So the reason why I ultimately chose to go to Blue Osa was I was turning 40. In fact, I turned 40 at Blue Osa, and it was a real special time to actually turn 40, doing something that was really important to me and for my self-care. And I was starting to get a little belly, and historically I've drank a lot with buddies, and it was that time in my life where I wanted to establish some new and better habits for myself. But it's tough to change habits when you're in the same environment over and over and over again with the same people doing the same things over and over and over again. So I had to remove myself from that situation into a place of isolation and immersion in order to really test out how did I feel mentally, physically, spiritually when I removed some of those toxins from my life. And as a result, I ended up feeling great. And a lot of those positive habits and behaviors have remained since coming back from that experience. So So that was critical as a catalyst for me to attend Blue Osa. In terms of, for those of us, and all of us who have times of feeling stuck in life, I think the first thing is to show yourself some gratitude and acknowledge that as human beings, we don't have shit figured out all the time. And it is possible for us to get stuck, and that's okay. And just because you're stuck now doesn't mean you're going to be stuck forever. So I think some acceptance and some gratitude and not putting pressure on yourself allows you actually to lighten the load, and maybe your feet become a little less stuck in the mud. And then you're actually able to just take some baby steps in whatever directions feels right. And sometimes you don't know it's right. It's just taking a step anywhere can allow you to get some momentum and move forward. Those are some thoughts.
Steve, that's really great. And one of the analogies that came up in my mind was, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That we don't eat elephants here, just for the record. Just
I was before Blue Osa, and then I gave that up, actually.
And I think next we have Channing.
Yeah, I also had a birthday at Blue Osa. I turned 29, and I still talk about the pineapple upside down cake. It was unbelievable. So I actually have an interesting perspective on this, a different perspective. You can decide if it's interesting. I wasn't stuck when I came to Blue Osa. I was entirely untethered. I was stuck nowhere. Like I said, I travel a lot for my job, and I was ending a contract that I had been in for 2 years. And so I spent 2 years of my life with this family, like raising these kids and like ingrained in a life that wasn't mine. And that was exacerbated by the pandemic. And I was like living someone else's life in a way. And suddenly I had to move on from that. And it was like looking out, it was like standing on the edge of a cliff in pitch black darkness, knowing that I had to jump and wondering which dark rock I wanted to hit first. And so I looked into yoga training. It's always something that I've been interested in, and I found Blue Osa, and I knew that I needed community and I needed healing, and this seemed like the perfect place for it, and it was everything I dreamed it would be. And so I guess in a way I was stuck in that. I was stuck in this place of being unstuck, of being untethered, and I needed to figure out how to come back to myself and how to be with people who could help me get there, if that makes sense.
Channing, do you have any kind of advice or a suggestion or something to offer people who are listening as something that you took to get unstuck from being unstuck in life?
Yeah.
I'm starting to say something cute.
Well, I think in general, I'm a big believer in jumping headfirst into almost everything and then feet first into everything else. Like whatever, if you're ever feeling like something is off, change something, figure it out. One of my biggest fears in life is stagnation and being stuck. And so I don't want that. I grew up around that, and I don't ever want that for myself. So if you're feeling stuck, jump, go somewhere, try something.
It reminds me of an old saying, if you don't know how to swim, just jump into the deep end of the pool. And if you don't know how to swim, the ladder is right there. So sometimes we have to take that big leap. Thank you. And I think we have next Cara.
Yeah, so I ended up at Blue Osa. Well, actually, I was going to take a teacher training in the beginning of last year, but because of the pandemic, it was kind of kept getting held off. And by the time they were actually going to do it, I didn't have the money to pay for it anymore. And so I did wildland firefighting for the summer to make money. And then as the season was winding down, I thought, all right, now I can do a teacher training. So I I actually found Blue Osa because a studio that's like a couple hours from me was doing one in Costa Rica, and I was looking it up. It was more than I wanted to pay, and I just didn't feel like it was the right one. So then I did some research and found Blue Osa. And when I was reading about what you offer, it sounded exactly what I wanted. I wanted a serious meditation, and I wanted anatomy, and I wanted an immersion. So it was everything I wanted, and it was so much more that I never knew I always wanted. And as for being stuck, for me, whenever I'm stuck, I remove myself. Sometimes, like going for a hike, going out in nature so that I can clear my head and think and reconnect. Or also another thing that helps me is to read inspirational books or inspirational podcasts, things like that, that help me see clearer or get ideas, be inspired. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, is anyone else not gonna address that she needed money so you went firefighting? Wow, I'm gonna go do some push-ups. That makes me feel soft.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, whatever.
Kara is kind of like a superhero, Wonder Woman. She's an
I know, right?
amazing individual. The one takeaway I took is, I think you said is really valuable, is that sometimes we have to remove ourselves from a situation. And I think one of the key words I would put is lovingly and compassionately remove ourselves, because sometimes we feel guilty about removing ourselves from a situation, but sometimes that's the only way that we can kind of come up and get that 40,000 foot perspective on something. And I can't stress that enough, like lovingly and compassionately doing that. You don't have to feel guilty, because when we get that wholeness back, then we come back stronger and better. And you forgot to add to your list reading inspirations from Yogi Aaron.
Yes. Autobiography of a Naked Yogi.
Yes, best book ever, New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
And Ginger.
Well, I kind of told you how I got stuck and ended up at Blue Osa, but going to Blue Osa was another whole story. I was scared to death. I told my family, I'm not going, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. Who in the hell do I think I am at my age to go? So I kind of, when I got there, which for me, why I wanted to go away, because it's kind of like, you're there, you have no choice. And I never found a more healing environment. And everybody, it's like, that love that you give to your kids, it's that unconditional love. That's what you felt there. And you felt that in nature, and nature itself is just incredibly healing no matter where you are. And so I fought every day. I'm not good enough. Who do I think I am? And then it's just like little by little by little by little, there I was out there doing yoga. I was out, and now I'm out there teaching. But and I think it's that unconditional support and the food and the nurturing and the love that you have there. It's just like, I guess I was stuck in my head. Well, I was stuck in my head, but the biggest stuckiness was fear. And I don't feel that anymore. I literally don't feel that anymore. I can go into different situations that I thought I could never. And I know it's all to that experience in Blue Osa. Along with the chanting and along with the learning and along with the anatomy and along with everything else, it's just life-changing, I guess. That's where I'll stop. So thank you, Erin, and the community of Blue Osa.
Ginger, you always touch my heart when you speak. One of the things that I remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to recall that you were feeling really scared and somebody in your life just pushed you and encouraged you and supported you through their words. Is that true?
My sister wrote me a letter, and now my sister and I have been at odds with each other since growing up, and it's the first time she ever, now you're going to make me cry. It's the first time that she ever wrote me a letter. It's just like, Ginger, don't be like me. You can do this. Go out. And I did. So yes, she did.
Right.
So thank you for that reminder. Yes.
Well, I just think that, we talk about getting unstuck, and so many of us, human beings go out of our way to find people to support our way of thinking in the world, and whatever our way of thinking is. And sometimes we need people, I think, in our lives that kind of, I don't want to say challenge us, because I think sometimes that word gets overused, but that lovingly support us to go. They can see that what direction we need to go. And they can see that because they can see that we're hungry for that direction, but not doing it. And so we need more people like that in our lives sometimes, that can see us, that really see us, and are able to see us and say, yeah, you need to take that step. And I always remember a very famous, and I don't remember, it was a famous like motivational speaker, but I don't remember who it was. But he said, if you see somebody, if somebody is negative in your life and, just being really negative and down, you shouldn't just turn around and walk away. You should sprint the other direction. And, and I think that cherishing those people that really celebrate us, our unique brilliance, and are always supporting us to become the best version of ourselves. And so that story you told about your sister always touches my heart. Thanks, Ginger. And then we have Alexis.
So I attended my 200-hour teacher training in 2017, and about 2 years prior is when I decided to stop training professional dance. And that was something I did at 3 years old all the way until that time. So it was a really like a whole of who am I? And I kept sitting with a question and just like, I don't know who I am without this. That was my identity. And I really like what everyone has shared, really in the same concept of getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. So it was my first time getting out of the country and by myself. I needed to, like Steve said, drop the distractions, the business as usual, to really immerse myself in the practice. So yeah, that just allowed me to really come and be the best version of myself, to sit with myself. And I remember when I was looking, like, I remember thinking that there was just always, I knew there was something more to life. And I felt that way since I was a little girl. I was like, I know there's something more. And I was practicing yoga, and a teacher came up to me and she was like, you should look into teacher training. So again, knew I wanted an immersion and knew I wanted Costa Rica. And Blue Osa was the first one that popped up. And I don't know if I'm dreaming this or making it or it happen, but I'm pretty sure there was a video on the website that had the morning prayer that we listened to. And it was, oh my gosh, the moment I saw that, I was like, this is where I need to go. I trained my whole life, the physical practice. And when I heard that morning mantra, that prayer, and you just see the scenery and the studio, I was like, this is where I need to go. I wanted an authentic tantric hatha practice. I wanted to learn mantra. I know that there, beyond asana, there's so much more. So I can't, I mean, I've been there assisting, now I'm coming back for another month. I can't get enough of Blue Osa.
Hey, Alexis, what do you have any kind of tidbits for people listening? If anybody's feeling unstuck, could you offer them anything?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that came to me is really like, again, what getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's like, I remember, I think it was Alex, something with his last name. He wrote a book called The Third Door, where he was like chasing down all these like leaders and celebrities and figuring out like, how did you figure out like life? Like, and how did you be who you are? And he talked about having courage is very different than being fearless. Like being fearless is jumping out of an airplane, skydiving, and I've done that and it's tons of fun. Or going rock climbing or down like the waterfalls in Costa Rica. But having the courage is not denying that there's not fear. Like I was scared shitless to leave the country by myself for the first, like all by myself. I remember holding my partner's hand, like shaking on the way to the airport. And he's like, you can do this. But I was just like, I know that this is scaring the shit out of me, but there's a reason, because I knew that what was waiting for me was infinite possibilities. And that's what you say all the time. The universe is full of infinite possibilities. We are the universe of infinite possibilities. And having the courage to do the thing that scares the shit out of you, not denying, because fear is not a bad emotion. It's just like, it's there. But I'm going to have the courage to either set a boundary, whatever that is, or step in and come to Blue Osa. Thank you.
Thank you. When you were talking, I was just thinking about one of the students who Ginger knows, Morgan. And Morgan came and she literally got to the airport and almost called her friend to come and pick her up in the airport before she left the country, because she was so terrified. And anyway, she finally got there. And now she won't leave Costa Rica 4 years later. She actually moved here. She's like, bye old life. She found her chutzpah. She found her wings. The last question I want to ask is, since graduating, have you had the opportunity to share any of these practices? Have you seen what kind of transformations have you seen with your students or peers? Have you also, I wanted to slide in a little bit of the Ayama approach, applied yoga anatomy and muscle activation, because I believe very strongly that if we're feeling in pain in our body, then we really can't live our life purpose. And so I'm on a mission to help others really become pain-free. So I just wanted to quickly, this is the fire round, so 2 minutes each. Let's start with you, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly when I first came back, it was the morning meditation. Prior to going on walks, I would do muscle activation as well. And then a little bit of the practical aspects of life does end up kind of re-showing their faces again in the day-to-day. But what I really appreciate about the ritual is that it's still in there. And I think when the next time comes to reintegrate these practices in a more consistent type of way, they're going to be closer to the surface instead of having to really reach deep down to find them. And so I'll leave it at that yes, the muscle activation, the breathing, the morning walk, the paying attention, the looking at trees, the listening to birds, all of that is still very much enlivened in me and contributing to my self-growth and development, even well beyond Costa Rica.
Thanks. And Channing.
So a lot of what Steve said resonated with me as well. Like, I carry so much of the physical practice as well as a lot of the stuff I learned just about how to be good to your body and how to connect with it and how to make it move in a way that serves you best. And that looks different for everyone. And I've been able to share that with a lot of people in my life. And it's a very powerful message, and one that Aaron drives home in every single lesson. And it's something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life. And being able to share that with other people. I share it with like kids I work with. I've always done yoga with the kids in my care, but imagine being 7 years old and know how to control your emotions with breath work. Like, the teachings are so important. And I know that if I had them at a different point in my life, things could be a lot different. And they're so valuable, and I love having the opportunity to share them, and I'm so grateful to them.
Thanks, Channing. I believe we have Cara next.
Yeah, so I've had my mom and my sister doing Shalabhasana more and more, and they, yeah, your favorite pose. They in the beginning, they could barely get off the ground. You know, they're like maybe here, and now they're both like way a foot off the ground almost. And also I had I've had my husband do glute activation because he did bridge and he could barely get off the ground. And then he did all the glute activation and he was way off the ground, you know, hips all in line with his knees, you know. And also in myself, I just realized sitting here that I have no back pain. And I've had back pain for a long time. I injured my back as a teenager. And, you know, a lot of times, like sometimes after doing yoga, my back would hurt in that spot. And then I just realized it doesn't hurt anymore. And it hasn't hurt for quite a while now.
Stuff works when you use it, eh?
Yeah.
So just for those people who are listening, Shalabhasana is locust pose. And it's when you're lying on your stomach and you lift your legs and your chest or your upper torso off the floor as high as you can. So if you don't believe us how hard it is, just try it. But it's the number one pose I really believe in to really give you more stability and strengthen your back muscles, something that we need to do every single day. Thanks a lot, Cara. And Ginger.
It's funny you should mention that. I've actually got a lot of positive response, and that's one of the things that I include in all my classes. But my daughter had just talked to me. She was out working and she said her back hurt. And because I'm older, a lot of young kids look at me and say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. But I say, try it, try it, try it. So, you know, I'm getting them, they're more and more likely to ask me, what do I do for this? What do I do for that? But so she told me, she asked me, you know, what do I do? And I said, do Shalabhasana and do that 6 times, 6 seconds each. And she said, oh yeah. She said, I know how to do it. I've just never done it. I said, well, that will definitely get you out of pain. So, and I've, you know, been able to share quite a bit. And I, you know, and just even the yoga part, also like the chanting and the spiritual part of it is just been of immense pleasure to me and many of the people that I've taken to different kirtans and different things like that throughout the years. So thank you again.
Thank you, Ginger. It's just so inspirational to see you, you know, using these practices. And I don't know, since I first met you to where I see you now, you're, you know, it's like you're, I don't want to say you're younger because I think that's a little cliche, but there's much more youthful vitality that I feel and see with you. And it's just exciting to see that. You're not getting older, you're getting younger.
You're catching up with me, Aaron.
And you're welcome. And Alexis.
So since receiving my certification in 2017, I've been teaching privately and also at a power studio. In South Jersey, there's just a ton of hot studios. So I am teaching, this is where I get the opportunity to teach group classes at a power studio. But what I love about what Blue Osa has provided me and supported me with is that Sanskrit, the language, so the vibration of it, it's just so beautiful using that in the practice because it is the language of yoga. And it's very important to be speaking the Sanskrit and the English as best you can and still being a student of it. Like I just took another workshop to continue to practice the vows and everything. But I've really loved bringing the morning practice as a event at a studio to get everyone to really feel the energy of going through the Kriyas and the Kapalabhati and Agnisara and chanting. And it's really wonderful, especially the reason why I brought up teaching at a power studio is giving the students another viewpoint to authentic, integrous yoga when it comes to, again, stepping out of just asana, but introducing different pranayamas, different breath works that are either brahmana, more expansive, or more langana, reducing excessive mental chatter. And there are certain breath works, certain asana poses mantra that actually energetically, which is tantra, shifts you to cultivate, whether it's, again, more grounded, letting go, feeling more vitality. It's just so beautiful that when you introduce that into a full rounded practice, students leave and they're like, I don't know what just happened. I mean, I can't give them 20-minute shavasana, Erin. It would be a 2-hour practice. Like, I can't do that. But the 10-minute shavasana will suffice, but they leave being like, oh my gosh, like, I really felt this shift within myself. And it's not because it's just one aspect. It is a complete aspect, the complete package of introducing all the different limbs. So I'm really grateful for all that Blue Osa has provided, and you have taught me so much. And again, always excited to come back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just putting a pin here. There we go. So I would love to just open it up to everyone here who is joining in here. And if you have a question for a specific person, feel free to ask that specific person. I just wanted to say one thing before we open it up. And there's a common theme that I kind of started with, and that is so apparent with, the 5 different speakers and 5 different alumnus. And that's like the love and the reverence they have for the practice, and the love and the reverence they have for that ritual. And that is the most important thing, I think, to cultivate. As I said in the beginning, if we just think of it as something that we should do, then it's never something that we're going to do. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras talks about this, and he talks about this cultivation of Shraddha, of having faith in our practice, which is one of the very first rungs on this kind of fast track to a spiritual awakening, that there has to be this cultivation of faith in the practice. And faith comes from having a love and respect for the practice, not coming from that place of like, oh my God, I should do this. Oh, I have to meditate, or I have to chant these mantras, or I have to spend time by myself. But it comes from that idea of faith. And we describe faith in so many different ways. Patanjali translated, or it was actually Vyasa that translated faith as a joyful state of mind. A mind that is exuding in joy. And so there's that constant coming back to this cultivation of knowing why we practice, and at the same time having love for the practice, and having love for that space that we carve out for ourselves. And then that rituals can happen in so many different ways. I'd like to turn it over to anybody here if you have any questions for these people about anything that they talked about the yoga teacher training immersions experience that they had.
So I'm just curious if you guys could recommend one thing that we could take away as listeners. One ritual, one act that can help us get unstuck in our daily life for people who haven't attended teacher training.
Great, Steve, you want to answer that? What's one thing?
Breathe. Breathe. Focus on the breath. When in doubt, breathe it out.
No, I totally agree. Like the pranayama, like the breath work that I learned there, it's life-changing. It really is.
Erin, I will never forget, and I say this to my students all the time, is change the quality of your breath to change the course of your life. That is always, right? Yes, I see everyone nodding their heads like, yes, I remember Erin saying that. That really was like a moment. And like box breath, inhaling for 4, pausing for 4, exhaling for 4, pausing for 4. That is so wonderful, because those pauses, that like suspension of the breath at the top and the bottom, it kind of creates like a halt in the thought process. And it just goes, oh, And then you exhale and continuing to do that, even if it's for like 3 minutes. That is a really quick way for me. And ujjayi as well, because it simulates the vagus nerves to go into your parasympathetic nervous system. Ujjayi.
Something that I remember Aaron saying during one lesson, and I wrote it down, and I come back to it literally daily. And it's the 3 physical aspects of yoga, being the asanas, the breath work, and meditation, is that asana heals your past, pranayama, your breath work, will bring you to the present, and meditation sets you up for the future. I have found so much truth in that, and it's given me like a lot of solace, and it gives me like a point to constantly return to. I love that.
If everyone didn't realize already, like Aaron is a walking bumper sticker, and everything he should say, I want on a t-shirt, I want on my car.
We're working on that, Alexis. But you know, I'm constantly reminded, like, our lives are like we're on this river. And Rod used this analogy one time, that we're all on like this river. Our thoughts are like a river, a stream, and they're constantly going one direction. And usually that flow is not going in the direction that our hearts really want it to go. You know, we want to be more active in life, and we end up sitting on the couch all the time. I have a friend of mine, Andrew, who I always laugh with because he loves TV. And I said one time, you know, I was trying to help him get off that river and into another river. And I said, Andrew, why don't you just give your TV to someone just for 30 days? Just try it out. Try your life without TV for 30 days. And he acted as if I was about to take away his firstborn child. But it's really about how do we start to shift our momentum? And I love what you said, Alexis, because it's a reminder that the way that we breathe is actually carrying that momentum. And the reason why, like, changing the breath is so powerful, so potent, is that we get to start to shift that momentum and move it in a different direction. So if we start to shift the way that we breathe, if you're breathing in, you know, really rapidly all day long in your life, and the tantric method says, well, don't try and change your life, just change the way that you breathe. And as we start to shift the way that we breathe, our life starts to shift, and we're like, oh my God, what just happened? So does anybody else have any other questions? I think Stephanie, you were going to ask a question.
Yes. So I was signed up to take the yoga teacher training the June right after the pandemic started. So obviously that got canceled. And in the past couple of years, now I'm at a point where now I still want to do the teacher training, but I'm just starting this whole who am I type of thing. So my question is, I know you have retreats designed more around that, and then you also have those. So can I get enough of that while I'm doing yoga teacher training, or should that be 2 separate, work on me and then work on, you know, or vice versa?
Yeah, I feel like I want to let Channing and maybe even Ginger answer that question.
Yeah. Hey, Stephanie, that's a great question. And I have found that through physical practice, you find yourself, no matter the shape that it takes. The more that you return to your body, the more that you are going to look inward. And combined with all of Aaron's like teachings and just the intellectual and spiritual side of what yoga is, and having Aaron guide me through that, taught me a lot about myself. And it taught me a lot about where I want to be and where I want to go. But more than that, it taught me where I am and who I am in this moment and why that matters. So I say, yeah, and I did the 14-day retreat, blew me away. I sat down and Aaron said, I don't care how stretchy you are. I don't care how flexible you are. I don't care if you can do this. I don't care if you can do that. And I looked at him and I said, yo, that's all I got. And he was like, well, it's going to be a weird 2 weeks. And it sure fucking was. Sorry, I just cursed on your webinar.
It's all good. Ginger, would you like to add anything?
What he said, and then it's just like, a lot of times you want to find yourself or do work on yourself, but you don't know exactly what it is you want to work on. And at Blue Osa, I was there for 30 days. So it was a month or 28 days. And it's just like, you find out what it is that you need to work on in being who you are and who you want to be. So my recommendation is definitely do that first, or do that in conjunction with. Yeah. That's it.
Thanks, Ginger. I just want to add to that. One of the things about the way that we've structured these immersions is, at least in the tradition, that the most powerful way to learn something is that you go and study it. And I see, Stephanie, that you're, based upon what you just said, that you're immersing yourself, you're exploring this question, who am I? And you're reading books and learning different practices, perhaps. And then you come and you actually start to hear it from a teacher of the tradition, and you hear it differently, and you glean more knowledge, and it kind of just opens up this whole teaching for you. And then the third component is actually that you get to practice teaching it. And this is a huge part of our training. And it's not to get, it's part and parcel because it is a yoga teacher training, but the other part, which is much bigger, is that you get to own it. Once you start to teach something, you own it in a very potent way. And then it never leaves you. So you can learn something, you can read about it, but until you actually go out and teach it, then until that happens, you don't really get to absorb it in a full and in a complete way. Does that help you, Stephanie, answer the question? Yeah. Does anybody else have a question? All right, well, I want to wrap this up with a few final thoughts. And I just, first of all, really want to say thank you so much to the 5 people who joined, Steve, Channing, Ginger, Alexis, and Cara. And one of the things that I really wanted to also say is, like, I feel very honored to be kind of, I guess, a vessel, if you will, or a spokesperson for this tradition. And I really hold all my teachers in my heart, and hold, as I always end with this sacred prayer, the sages and seers that oversee this tradition, and still continue to this day in the Himalayas. And that if you want to advance your spirituality and accelerate your spiritual path, then look to start creating a ritual in your life that reconnects you back to your wholeness. And there was so many great tidbits in this webinar. Just jump off the ledge and into it. Take a chance and just jump into it. And also finding those people that support you in your path. Maybe sometimes finding someone to share a ritual with can also be really supportive. But create a ritual that works for you. I remember many, many, many years ago, I had fallen off of my own path and was finding a way back to it. And I remember I was also starting to put a little bit of weight on at that time. So I thought, why not take up walking? So I just started walking and practicing my mantra at the same time. It's a great combination. And so we find our way in, but it's the reverence and the love that you have for that practice, that sacredness for that moment to reconnect. And one of the ways to accelerate it is just jumping into an immersion and taking that time. At Blue Osa, we do have these 14-day immersions, and we have 28-day immersions. And sometimes we need to, as someone said earlier, remove ourselves from something so that we can start to have more perspective. Sometimes we're so in it, and we're so in the river of our life that trying to get out is very challenging. So putting ourselves into an environment that is supportive, that is nourishing, not only to your soul, but also to your body is also really important. I wanted to leave you guys or invite you guys to just kind of steep into or tune into this affirmation. It's an affirmation I created in the affirmation series. And it's an affirmation to help you start to attune to purpose, attune to this moment, and really to tune into what you're doing in your life is really important, is significant. So wherever you are right now, I just want to invite you to just maybe close your eyes for a moment and you can either do one of two mudras, either bring your hands together in Namaste Mudra, or just bring your hands over your heart and just closing your eyes and following that deep breath in and deep breath out. And since you don't know this affirmation, I'm just going to say it and you can repeat it in your mind's eye as you hear it. And I'm going to say it 3 times. So again, take one more deep breath in and exhale out. Every day, I allow the space for my purpose to become clear. I honor what I hear. I honor what is revealed. I honor my journey. May I honor this sacred source through the fulfillment of my life's work. Just breathe that into your heart. Every day, I allow the space for my purpose to become clear. I honor what I hear. I honor what is revealed. I honor my journey. May I honor the sacred source through the fulfillment of my life's work. Every day, I allow the space for my purpose to become clear. I honor what I hear. I honor what is revealed. I honor my journey. May I honor this sacred source through the fulfillment of my life's work. Namaste, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in and taking this really important time to reconnect, to reground, to reestablish, and most importantly for me, to share community with each other. I wish you well. God bless you and have a super wonderful evening, everybody. Namaste.
Namaste. Bye, Aaron. Thank you.
Bye, Channing.
Bye, everybody. Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Cara.
Yeah, Steve.
Bye, y'all.
Bye,
Thank you.
Aaron. Thanks
guys.
for inviting me.
Bye, Aaron. Bye, Michelle.
Hi, everybody.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Mark. Nice to see you, Heath, Stephanie.
Good to see you, Aaron.